We're going to wrap up our series of mayoral candidate interviews this morning with the incumbent. Jyoti Gondek was elected mayor back in 2021, and she's hoping voters send her back to City Hall for another 4 years. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in. So, same question for everybody off the top. In your case, it's re-elected. Why should you be re-elected as mayor of Calgary?
You know, I appreciate that question. The last 4 years have been interesting, to say the least. We've had a lot of really good things happen. Our downtown revitalization strategy has proven that we can build more homes downtown, 1,500 units coming on. We have $15 billion worth of construction projects on the go. And those things happen with careful leadership. And so it's that steady hand at the wheel that I want to bring back. We've laid a good foundation for our city, and I want to see some of those projects that we've started get through the construction phases and really create that feeling of prosperity in our city.
One way of looking at it is that incumbent candidates typically have a kind of advantage, around name recognition, maybe otherwise. You are in what is shaping up to be quite a tight race if you buy the polling. Why do you think that is? What are you hearing when you're out and about?
I can tell you that people are concerned about a few things. Their number one concern right now is the teacher strike. And you may look at me and say, that's not a municipal issue. I'll tell you, what is concerning Calgarians needs to be on my priority list. People are worried about not having an income if they're the parent that's staying home with the kids. They're worried about what's happening with kids who have special needs without access to classrooms and supports. And I can tell you that there is a very big concern about kids and their future. Let's not forget that we went through the pandemic, and that was rocky for a lot of kids. This is a generation that's trying to bounce back from them, but it had a profound impact. That was something we couldn't control. We absolutely could have controlled not going into a strike situation, and we're re-traumatizing a bunch of kids.
Okay, well, for sure, it's not municipal jurisdiction, but I hear you reflecting on it. You called the last council that you led as mayor interesting. That could be a euphemism for a lot of things. What are you hearing from people about their frustrations with how the last council functioned?
When I have conversations with people who bring up the word dysfunctional, it's an opportunity to really open the door to talk about what we've accomplished. Let's not forget that this is the council that passed a housing strategy that has made us the leader in the nation for housing starts. Because of that strategy, we were able to draw $228 million from the federal government. We have already started work on 17 parcels that used to be city-owned. They are now in the hands of nonprofits to deliver affordable housing. This council accomplished that. You don't do that with dysfunction. There has been a lot of collaboration, but because things went so well from setting a foundation, I don't think people remember those things. They remember the sparks and the moments of controversy.
Let's talk housing, and I think among the kind of lead candidates for mayor, you're the only one that doesn't say you're going to repeal blanket zoning, and of course you were a champion of it with the last council. Do you think it's working as intended?
There's really two ways to look at this. The first one is my support for the rezoning change was to make sure that people had options in their neighborhoods. When I think about seniors and wanting to age in place, I want to make sure that they've got the opportunity to downsize their home if that's what they're looking for, or get some supportive housing if that's possible. And there's so many parents that are saying to me their kids went away to school, they got a great education, and their first job somewhere else is nice, but they want to come home. But they feel that they're priced out of the market. So I really wanted Calgary to have the opportunity to evolve our neighborhoods over time. This was never a quick fix. But the other thing that's important to me, some of the amendments that we brought with that decision need to play out. We had an amendment that said administration needs to connect with the community and find out what people are willing to accept when it comes to change in the house across the street or beside them. So the community outreach, I want to know what we heard from Calgarians. Secondly, we gave direction to create a how-to guide, that these are the types of row houses that are acceptable, and if this is what you're going to create, the community will be on board with it. We also created a community liaison so that people can unpack the language of land development and planning, because it's not always easy. But the most important thing is we made this district discretionary. Now, I don't want to get too complicated into planning lingo. It used to be if you received approval to go to RCG, it was permitted. And so as long as it fit the parameters of what you can build, it had to be approved. Now we've given discretion to administration, so the public actually has a voice now that they didn't have before at this stage. So I want to see the results of those changes come back to us. There's a report coming early next year. I want to hear what Calgarians had to say.
It has left some Calgarians feeling like City Hall, the mayor, the last council didn't listen to them. And there's evidence of that in the people you're running against saying, we're going to do things differently. How do you stump on this now?
We listened to 700 people during that public hearing, and I can tell you what I heard the most was fear of the unknown and people quite concerned about what's going to be built beside me or in my neighborhood. And that is not something that we consider during the land use phase, but that's the only time that the public has a voice. So I want to make sure that if there is change coming to your neighborhood, you have the opportunity to weigh in. And that was the strongest amendment that we made. We gave the public a voice in a place that they used to not have one. But again, this is complicated stuff, and I don't think it was communicated well. And I'm completely going to own that. I don't think we did a great job of communication, and that's got to improve into the future.
Public safety is another big one. You know, that is polling, that it is a matter of debate between you and the other folks running for mayor. I mean, before council wrapped ahead of the campaign period, you put forward the idea of a new bylaw banning open drug use, one tool among a few being proposed to address the situation, I suppose, you know, in the core of the city. It's not a new problem. What the timing of that? Why did you wait until the final hour to put that idea out there?
You know, Loren, I appreciate your terminology of one tool. We all know that there's not one thing that's going to fix social disorder or public safety concerns. So when I found out from administration that they were actually quite supportive of strengthening our bylaw, that didn't happen until roughly the end of August. So I dug in a little bit more. I spoke with the Calgary Police Service. I spoke with people who are leaders in the recovery community as well, and social service agencies. They all agreed it was a good idea to ban open drug use and to divert people to community court. That's the key. If you send people to community court, they have access to supports for the root causes, whether it's mental health struggles or addiction or being unhoused. That's what I wanted to see as a positive outcome for people who were openly using. I simply didn't have the information until that point in time. And that's why I made the amendment at that last meeting.
Wasn't the campaign Hail Mary?
You know what? I did announce that for my campaign, I would look at ending open drug use. And it was when I made that announcement that I was able to find out, yeah, administration is on board. So sadly, they didn't bring us a report. They were trying to get someone on council to be a champion. And that person said, it's a little too hot. I don't want to bring it. So I did.
That sets the table for a transition from what happened before to, if you're elected, what'll happen next. And you called the council interesting. And I think there's a lot of public opinion, which really matters, that it was a dysfunctional council. You talked about taking responsibility for poor communication around the zoning decisions. If you win, how will your second term be different than the first?
Well, let me tell you what will be the same. I will reach out to whoever wins their ward races as soon as I can, and I will set up meetings to speak with all of them. That's what I did last time as well. I made sure I got to know every member of council to find out what was important to them, what they had heard, and what they wanted to deliver. And then we got down to the business of bringing that forward to council. So I intend to do that again. With this council, I worked with every member who had a desire to do something in their community. Even when I didn't completely agree, I helped them shape the motion or the amendment to make sure their voice could be heard and we could vote on something that they wanted to bring forward. That's something I'll do again. My role as the chair of a meeting is to make sure that the voices of members of council get heard on behalf of their communities, and I will do that again. The one big thing that I have already changed in the last 18 months, and I'll keep doing, is that communication out to the public. I need to make sure that you're aware of what we're discussing and the decisions we're making and the why, and it has to be in plain language. And so that's my commitment, to make sure the communication is as strong as it can be with Calgarians.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And we'll see you tomorrow.